Sony would expand into the United States with the formation of Sony Corporation America. Shortly after this, using the transistor technology that they had perfected 5 years earlier, Sony would create the first transistor television. For context, TVs of the time were still huge because they were using massive bulky vacuum tubes to power them. So Sony's model was a revolution, much smaller than anything that had ever come before it. In 1968, Sony would release their Triniton TVs. It had twice the brightness of regular TVs of the day and was the greatest TV product series of the entire century. These Triniton televisions were known for their great quality.
Because we knew that they would go intervene better than we did. Because the money was going to be with them, mass production. That's it.
The Triniton TV system was so good that it supported Sony's growth for the 30 years after its launch in 1968. Before this, all Japanese products were seen as cheap and of low quality. Sony's color TVs changed the perception of Japanese products. 1975 saw the release of Sony's Betamax home video tape format and camcorder. The Betamax tape system was far superior to JVC's VHS release later that year, but it ultimately failed as it had less tape running time and was more expensive.
Look at it.
In 1978, a Sony executive would take a trip to Europe to see a spin-off technology of the Philips Laserdisc that could play audio. Philips and Sony already had a healthy relationship since the late 60s and decided to pair up. Philips was a world leader in optical video discs, and Sony had considerable expertise in digital audio signal processing technology. When the two companies joined forces, they would create the digital audio disc, now known as the compact disc. It would be released in 1982. In July of 1979, Sony releases the first stereo cassette player, called the Walkman. It is considered one of the most iconic music players and has sold over 400 million units. Of course, there were portable music players before the Walkman, but Sony's was the first that was easy to use and convenient.
The Sony Walkman is a tiny stereo cassette player with truly incredible sound. Put on a Walkman and see the world in a whole new light. The Walkman.
The Sony Walkman ushered in the company's golden age. It created a brand new culture of listening to your own personal music outside. In late 1982, the first CD player was introduced to the world by Sony, and just 2 years later, in 1984, they would create a portable version. It was called the Discman. Sony were on fire by this stage, and according to cultural critic Stephen Bailey, in this period, Sony was the apple of its day, and much more. By the end of 1988, Sony had acquired CBS Records for $2 billion and renamed it Sony Music Entertainment, and also Columbia Pictures Entertainment.
Told you, Sony is us.
1993 would be a year that would change the gaming landscape forever. In November of this year, Sony Computer Entertainment was established, and 1 year later, the Sony PlayStation was released. It was the first video game console to ship more than 100 million units. The year 2000 kicked off with the release of the Sony PlayStation 2. It went on to become the best-selling
There's been an incident. The plane carrying the product went down. Go out to the crash site and bring whatever you can to the warehouse.
Now known as Sony Mobile. 2004 saw the release of the PSP to compete with the Nintendo DS, and the PlayStation 3 would come 2 years later. In 2007, Sony would innovate yet another world-first product, the first OLED TV. 2011 would see the PlayStation Vita and one of the first 4K TVs. 2 years later, the PlayStation 4 would be released, and in 2016, the PlayStation VR headset was launched. According to one patent consulting firm, Sony has 366 patents for virtual reality.
No.
All these achievements over the lifetime of the company and nothing short of remarkable. But as some spectators are noticing, Sony has been stagnating a little. The company's sales haven't been what they used to, and the clarity of their direction is a little muddy. Let's take a look at some reasons of why this is happening.
Yeah, they planning.
Just quickly, before we get to the company itself, we should take a look at the background environment Sony was facing when they started to falter. In 1990, there was a devastating economic recession in Japan. It was caused by a shift in the nation's demographics and faulty central banking policies. The Central Bank of Japan loaned too much money, pushing up asset prices until it all finally burst in 1990. This resulted in rampant stagflation in the country. Wages fell, prices stayed stagnant, and businesses struggled. It was so bad that there's a name for it. It's called the lost score, or the lost 20 years. Because of this recession, Sony had to replace full-time staff with part-time staff, and job security became scarce. During this time of uncertainty and low staff morale, Sony had to start fighting off strong industry competition from a rising South Korea, Taiwan, and China. So the question must be asked, why did these countries suddenly rise? Well, in the 1990s and 2000s, the global electronics industry experienced a structural change. After the PC and internet revolution, the industry began to standardize parts and outsource production and assembly work to companies in low-cost, emerging economies. This was cheaper and more efficient on a macro scale. Meanwhile, most of Sony products were still being made in Japan, which had a higher cost in the manufacturing pipeline than its competitors. All of a sudden, Japanese products were expensive compared to the emerging manufacturers. When questioned on why he didn't want to drop prices, Sony chairman Akio Morita said, "We are selling diamonds." At the time, this was true, as Sony products were of high quality in the early 90s. But eventually, the other manufacturers got better at their craft, and the quality of their products improved. Suddenly, there wasn't all that much distinction to justify Sony's high price. The next issue for Sony began in the year 2001. This is when hardware manufacturing began to make room for the endless applications of software. It began with the iPod, a device that uniquely got music enthusiasts tied into software like never before.
Amazing little device, holds 1,000 songs. And it goes right in my pocket.
Do you remember what it was like when you got your first Walkman? You remember that feeling? When you got the first Walkman in your hand, it's like, wow. Well, I haven't picked up any MP3 player that has made me go, wow, okay, I want to carry this wherever I go. This is the first thing that makes me feel, wow, okay.
But this particular trend really accelerated from the year 2007 with the iPhone. With this, Apple achieved a breakthrough innovation in handsets. It allowed users to expand the functionality of their phones through applications developed by engineers and even individuals worldwide. So, how did Sony respond? Nobuyuki Ide, president of Sony during the early 2000s, reacted by trying to combine Sony's audio and video technology departments with its IT department. Ide stated that he just couldn't do it. The company was simply too big. Although he was aware that there was a need to shift Sony's business strategy, he could not change the mindset of all 140,000 employees and managers. The top leader is not a person with supernatural powers, he said. During this time, Ide even considered acquiring Apple. In an effort to save themselves, Sony has recently streamlined its operations, focusing less on audio and visual manufacturing. Unfortunately, according to one executive who spoke with the Times of Japan, quote, "Now that many excellent workers have left Sony as a result of structural reforms, the company's power of innovation has declined sharply." End quote. In the sphere of manufacturing, Sony has been outmaneuvered by the Koreans, Chinese, and Taiwanese. In fact, in the early 2010s, most of Sony's profits actually came from their financial services and not their manufacturing operations. In 2013, it was so bad that some investors suggested that Sony should just abandon their hardware division and just stick to making financial loans. Even the entertainment area of the company has taken a hit. It's fallen into a two-way tie with Paramount as Warner Brothers surges past. In addition to this, the Xperia phone brand has had disappointing sales and a backlog of sourcing issues. And this isn't to mention that Sony is getting steamrolled in the TV department by Samsung. In short, today, Sony is losing ground everywhere. It's simply too large, too diverse in its categories, and focused too much on the sub-brand names. With all of that being said, it's not all bad though. In late 2016, Sony started to turn around. Their smartphone department was losing money all throughout 2015, but did manage to post a reasonable profit in 2016. They did this by streamlining the phone product range, cutting costs, and focusing harder on premium phones with profitable margins, while identifying better target markets. With this being said, this doesn't mean that Sony's phones are doing well versus the rest of the market. Samsung, Apple, and the Chinese brands still largely dominate. The brightest spot for Sony is the PlayStation 4. It's doing very well, selling over 17 million units in fiscal year 2016. The strength of the PS4 has helped Sony reach its full first year of profit in 3 years. The PlayStation 4 was so good that it amounted to 78% of all profits in Q1 of 2016. Some other bright spots is Sony's digital camera division and also their smartphone sensor division. Sony's smartphone camera sensors are used in other popular brands like Apple, Samsung, LG, Motorola, OnePlus One, and of course the Sony Xperia range. There's also talk of a new Sony smartphone camera that can shoot full HD at, get this, 1,000 frames per second.
Wow.
So now that we've seen how and why Sony's began to falter, what are some solutions? Some analysts say that Sony needs to break from its past by completely transferring its existing businesses to overseas or even separate companies in a bid to create innovation.
Yep.
Since the PlayStation is so successful, perhaps they should double down on that and focus on that segment. Things like partnering with content creators to make even more killer games from the PS4 line, as well as some intuitive and addictive VR titles, could really provide some growth. Doubling down on differentiation with their smartphone camera line does also have some potential. All in all, as we've seen time and time again on Cold Fusion, this is a common problem for companies. Their rise is meteoric, but when they become too large and diverse, management becomes more fragmented and often bureaucratic, and it becomes difficult to see what the next clear step is. Usually when this happens,
you can't go to become the best at something. You can't go high as the fucking giraffe pushes. Keep your shit at minimum till you go cheaper. You'll make more revenue that way. I'm gonna show y'all how this shit done.
We have to wait and see how they react to their environment moving forward. That being said, if there's anything that we've learned from Sony in the last 60 years from the previous video, is that they've got a very innovative DNA, so a renaissance is a possibility. Anyway, so that's where we'll leave the story of Sony today. Hope you enjoyed that. I found it quite an interesting history to go through and kind of analyse where they've been starting to falter. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe.
Like I said again, that was good little clip by Sony. Thanks to the little dude that played up there, but anyway. Sony, you can't get greedy, man. See, y'all on top of everything. And y'all got greedy now, fell off. It is what it is. Got them all the time. But I like that phone, though. But I say again, boy, when you get greedy, that happens to you. It ain't about being greedy, it's about everybody coming together and putting what the creator gave and them together to create something out of nothing that's worth something. Shit ain't no rocket science. But as long as we keep on fighting each other, how can we ever come together? Because too many of y'all motherfuckers are trying to come together having sex, and y'all calling it making love. You can't make love with nobody you don't know. You can't come together if you're not a man and a woman. Period. Fuck all that bullshit. And y'all know bullshit when y'all see it, feel it, and definitely smell it. Because anything that smells like shit, and you're dealing with the shitter, it is what you're dealing with. Shit. Shouldn't be back there anyway. It is what it is. This world is so confused because of the shit they believe in. It's so confused because of the shit that was taught to believe in. You was taught to believe in that TV that tell lies to your vision. That's all that television do. It's lie to you. When you look at TV as much as most people do. But when I say that you are me and I am you, it is what it is when I tell you this. I love you more than you love you because I know the truth of you. don't. I'm here back from leaving here free willingly, giving up on life for not committing suicide. I can explain it to you better. I ain't gonna try to explain shit right now. I don't feel like it. But anyway, the truth is the truth, and the truth will only set you free in the first place that started you to be coming from heaven. I'm just trying to tell you. Before you came from your mother's womb to this bullshit and your heart went boom and you start breathing on your own. You was lied to because you was born here empty glass waiting for it to be filled with some truth. But the first day here you lied to me. You giving your mama a birthday, which is the truth too. But you was giving your mama a birthday because of the constellation prize for you. Because you wasn't born to you. You was born to the United States of America's corporation as product. All you gotta do is think about it. You was given the birth certificate and the social security card the government gave to your mama for you. That's why so much bullshit can happen to you. Because you ain't nothing but product. To them. To them. And I express that to them. You're nothing but product. But you better be more than that to yourself. And you better start thinking for yourself. And stop believing in some bullshit that was taught to you to believe in. Because now it's time to start knowing the truth. And the truth is in you to come out of you when the truth is the truth. It's coming straight from your heart. Because that's the only thing in you that's true. That truly is the creator of you. Let me explain something to you. The creator is the creativity in you. Being the creator of you. That light. That lightning strike. That spark before there's smoke or fire. That unconditional feeling of love that you just can't explain. But you have 5 senses to know that you're alive. That unconditional love is the love of the Creator that's going to love you no matter what. Because you was given a life. You was given free will. And you was given a choice. So when you think about the Creator's original name being love, and you think about you're not supposed to say the Creator's name in vain, and then you think about how easy y'all call out God when y'all call out God while having sex. Let me explain something to you. The only name you can say in vain is if you to tell somebody you love them and you don't feel the same. That could change the whole world. So think about who's in between you loving you when the Creator's original name is love. Nobody. No human body is in your body. The truth is the truth. So why do you put God and Jesus before you? I'm just saying, the truth is the truth. Period. Fuck all the bullshit. I'm Mr. Glasses 48. That ain't no shit. The real deal Holyfield is the love I feel for y'all. That's real because we was taught to be stupid. So I can't hate you. Never could do that to you. Because you are really just me. Because we all one. As in we. The conscious thinking people living here all together. Until we realize that we are the greatest creation of all, being the creator of the creation, given the life and the free will and the choices. It's just that we've been lied to the point where we're stupid. Because think about it, you don't hear no damn voices. You hear your own voice when you talk to yourself, but really you're talking to the Creator. Because the Creator in you is you to be a creator too. When you think about it, consciously thinking. See, we just been caught up with the stupidity of thinking the way that we was taught to think. But I'm just giving y'all the truth for yourself so y'all can start thinking for yourself. Because, like I say again, I love you more than you love you. Because I know the truth and you don't. And we was taught to be stupid. So you stupid, me too. But I'm here to keep you from falling further into being stupid. It's time to know what's going on. It's time to open your eyes, people. Because the shit that's going on is right in front. We are not sheeple. We are people that should know now what's going on. Because as kids, we was taught to believe. But once you reach a certain age, you should have been achieved the knowledge to knowing the truth is in you to come out. I'm Mr. Glass, 48.